Good morning, Athens, and welcome to Education Matters, the official voice of the youth. Education Matters is sponsored by your local radio internet station, Me Radio Athens. Check it out at meradioathens.com. My name is Kareem, and joining me are my co-hosts,
Payton,
Aiden Dowdy.
and Makai.
And today on Education Matters, we will be discussing private school education with our guests, Dr. Xernona Thomas, director of Downtown Academy. But before we start today's show, Payton will give us our words to grow on.
Continuous effort, not strength or intelligence, is the key to unlocking our potential. Winston Churchill.
Thank you for coming today, Dr. Thomas. My name is Makai. First of all, we want to know, how did you get an education in the first place?
Okay, so I started my career about 32 years ago as a school social worker. So I started out working in education in the school system, but as a social worker, kind of similar to some of the work of school counselors, but working with families in the community, in the homes, working with students at the school, but really making the connection between the home, the school, and the community. So that was how I started out in education, and then from that point have had a variety of different jobs related to education, but started in social work. Thank you.
Tell me about the different duties you have as a superintendent and how they differ from your position now.
Okay, so when I was superintendent, I was responsible for ensuring that all of the students in the Clark County School District had a quality education and had an opportunity to learn and be successful. And of course, I was responsible for a little over 2,000 employees. Worked very closely with the community, with different agencies, individuals, families, to make sure that we were providing a strong education for children. Now, the position that I have is similar but on a much smaller scale. So we are just kindergarten through fifth grade. With Clark County schools, we were pre-K. Actually, we were early learning all the way through 12th grade. So we started serving students in the Clark County schools at about 6 to 8 weeks old, which is very different, and a lot of people don't know that. But we provide early learning support through early Head Start program. Now I am just working with kindergartners through fifth grade, a very small private school. We have one class per grade level, and really cap our enrollment at around 60 or so students. So that's very different than what I've been accustomed to in Clark County.
What's the difference between private school and public school?
So are you asking from me as an individual,
your
or
point of view.
from my point of view versus a definition wise? Um, in this instance, because this is a Christian focused school, that's very different for me, because in public schools, you're not able to address issues related to religion or issues related to political views. So you serve any student who comes to you, regardless of what their background interests may be, what their religious affiliations may be, what parents prefer in regards to maybe educational settings. If you are a student in that community, then we serve you. And that's what I have been accustomed to, is working with any student who comes through the door. In this setting, parents make a conscious decision that they want their child in a Christian centered learning environment that we do not promote one religious view over another, but we are a Christ centered institution. And so we do have practices that happen during the day. We have chapel once a week. We have scriptures daily. So there are things of that nature that have been an adjustment for me to be able to have those discussions and dialogue in the school setting, because just for 30 years, I've been trained that you don't do that. So for me, I think that's probably the biggest difference. And then just the size of the school and the classes are very different for me.
What is your biggest accomplishment?
Hmm. I would say two. So I think for me, it has been what I have done as a parent to work to instill the beliefs in my children that I've tried to instill in the children that I served in the Clark County schools. Second has been that I went back to school. I always said I wouldn't. I had 2 degrees and a certificate in school social work, and I said I would not go back to school. And I made the decision when my youngest child was entering 6th grade to go back and get my doctorate. And I think it was good for me, but it was also good for her and my son as well. But for them to see that one, you're never too old to learn, and also what hard work can do. And if you want something and you set goals for yourself, you're able to accomplish that. And so and to see that balance that I was able to work and continue to be a wife and a mom and a student, I think it taught a lot to both of my children about the importance of hard work and setting goals for yourself and then doing what you have to do to reach those goals.
What are your goals for Downtown Academy this upcoming school year?
To continue to provide a strong educational and social emotional environment for the students who are enrolled in our program, to work with our teachers to build strong learning opportunities and to develop strong leaders. That's part of the mission and vision of Downtown Academy, is to build a community of leaders for Athens Clark County. So to partner with our families and our teachers and other staff to create learning opportunities that help our young people to develop as leaders and to see the potential that they have in themselves so that they can reach the long-term goals that they have. And because they're just with us through 5th grade, making sure that they are strong individually, so when they transition either to public schools or to larger private schools, that they have the skills to be successful.
So you worked, you say, 32 years in the public school system. You retired, I think it was in December.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then you turned around a few months later and unretired and took a job with Downtown Academy. How did that happen?
So actually, I unretired and took a job with College Factory, where I'm working with young people, the ages of many of them, here to help remove barriers and have to increase their access to post-secondary learning opportunities and to really provide, resources such as SAT and ACT tutoring. So when I first came out of retirement, that was where I started, and I'm still working with them as well. So I'm kind of doing both ends. I'm doing the K-5 kids, and then I'm doing the 11th, 10th, 11th, 12th graders who are getting ready for college. In all honesty, when I retired, I knew I was not retiring to go home. I just knew it was time to do something different. And I think as a person, especially as adults, but even I think as young people, you have to be able to be self-reflective enough to recognize when you've done what you can do for a place or an organization, and then when it's time to pass that torch to someone else. And I believe that I was sent in that particular role as superintendent for Clark County for a difficult time for our community. There were a lot of things that had gone on, that were going on, and I believed that my being a native Athenian and my history in Clark County schools would provide a level of support and familiarity for our community at a very difficult time. And I hope that I succeeded in kind of being a good transition space. But in reflecting on what I had done and what needed to be done, I have to be open and honest enough with myself to say, okay, I've done what I needed to do at this point, and now it's time for someone else to take Clark County to another level. And I recognized that. And so when I made the decision to retire, I knew that I was just too young to go home and sit down, right? And so I just didn't know what my next would be, but I felt that it was time to allow someone else with a different skill set to really help take Clark County to another place where I was confident that we're able to go as a school system, as a community. And so then I had worked with Dr. Lawrence Harris, who founded College Factory, and he reached out, and I thought, this is great. This is kind of what I started out wanting to do as a social worker. I'm about helping young people. I love working directly with young people. And so I took on that opportunity. Then I was contacted by Downtown Academy, and I went and I visited, and I said, okay, I'm going to volunteer maybe once a week, come in and help out. Then they said, well, why don't you work a couple of days a week? And I said, I don't, I'm already committed. But I got there and I fell in love with the children. I fell in love with the work, the smiles, the faces, the stories, um, the family type environment that was yet a learning environment. And that also allowed me to tap into my personal spiritual beliefs. And I felt that all the work I had always done in Clark County was a calling for me, but I was never able to really articulate that and say that and really express my personal religious views. And so being able to have those conversations, to be able to talk about prayer and God's purpose for your life, and trusting God to kind of lead you where you're supposed to go, having those conversations with young people who were initiating those conversations with me, was energizing, and it was exciting. And then the next thing I knew, I was going to the building when I wasn't even supposed to be at the building because there were young people who just really pulled at my heart. And so when they approached me and they had been looking for a director, headmaster for a number of months, and so they said, well, will you just give it a try and see? And I said, why not? I had been prayerful about my next steps and where I could be most used. And I said, the next time I pray that prayer, I'm going to be more specific with God, because I was talking about something a little less time consuming. And but Downtown Academy has provided me that space, and it's filling. And so I go home, honestly, I think getting more from being there than they probably get from me, because the kids are just, it's just an amazing small learning community. So
How can parents help to prepare their children to be introduced into the education system?
I think starting out, honestly, even sometimes before kids are born, reading to them even in the womb, and as soon as they come out, talking to them, but the power of the language and the importance of children knowing words. And you look at research about how many words kids should know by certain developmental times. I think we do a lot now with digital tools and electronic devices, and we have replaced good human communication with gadgets. And so for parents to take the time to read to their children, to take learning opportunities, even if you're in the grocery store. That's an apple, that's an orange, that's a banana. What color is that? Just normal conversation that doesn't happen, excuse me, as much as it should, really helps to prepare children. And I don't think, that it should be so strict and structured that they don't get to be kids and they don't get to play and have free time and be physical. But, saying that, expose them to numbers, counting with them. If you're putting them on devices, put them on learning games and learning activities that are teaching them rather than exposing them to things that have no educational value.
We will be right back after this break.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Education
Go ahead. Start
Welcome
again.
back to Education Matters with Xernona Thomas. I have a question that regards to how many degrees do you have in teaching?
I have one degree in education and one certificate. So ironically, since we're sitting here today, my bachelor's degree is in journalism from the University of Georgia, Grady College of Journalism and Mass Communications. So that is my undergraduate degree. I have a master's in social work. Then I got a certificate in school social work. So that was kind of my first education certification or degree. And then when I went back and did my doctorate, it was in educational leadership and administration. I'm one of few educators who did not start out in the teaching route, but started out in what they call a service field in education.
Is there anything that you think that is there something that you think that like private schools should do? Like that something that public schools do but private schools should consider or do?
I think it's important that all schools maintain a level of accountability. And sometimes there are feelings that private schools don't have that same level of assessing and monitoring student progress that our public schools have. And then sometimes people feel that public schools test too much. So I think finding that balance, but making sure that we're both able to ensure that our students are learning the material that they need to learn to progress on to the next grade level and then to ultimately graduate and be successful and have the skills needed to perform past high school. And so some, private schools don't have some of the same requirements in terms of state accountability and state scoring and grading that you have in public schools. And so, in some instances, because of that, the level of standard and quality is not there. So I just believe that private schools have the same obligation to their students to make sure that their teachers are strong, that they know the content, and that the students are learning the material that they need to learn in order to be successful in the long term.
In terms of curriculum, how is the private school curriculum different from public school curriculum?
Again, kind of similar in that there is that flexibility, and our public schools have flexibility as well. There's a curriculum review process, so every school or district has a committee. They go through, they look at learning materials for reading, for writing, for science. There are materials for health. And so I think the big difference is that when you're in a public school, there are more people to look at those materials. And a lot of times you have more resources and support. Many private schools, now there are private schools in some areas, even in Athens, but really when you get into Atlanta, that are large private schools and they have more resources to support those different programs or to support making sure the curriculum is there, the curriculum is strong. There are organizations of private schools that work together to ensure that the curriculum needs are met. Private schools do have to be accredited, just like public schools, and that just means there's a process of standards you have to go through to make sure that there are certain qualifications you're meeting to ensure that you qualify to be a school. And part of that is looking at what that curriculum is and what materials are there, but just to be sure that the curriculum is strong and that it meets all of the learning needs, it meets the standards that are there and that are required. I think it's just important from a public and private school perspective.
What was the first thing that you noticed when you went from public to private school? Like, what did you notice that pulled them both apart? Like, what was different from both of them?
The biggest difference for me is that there's an option to not serve a child. Like you in a private school, you can say we're not going to accept you. There's an application process. And that's a drastic difference for me because as I said earlier, in public school, whoever comes in, whatever their learning needs are, if they have special academic needs or if they have special physical needs or they may have special medical needs, you have to serve them. We have students who come in and they may not know any English, and we have to make sure that we're able to provide ESOL or English as a second language support for those students. And so if a student shows up in a public school, no matter what their need happens to be, you have to serve them. In a private school, there's an application process, there's a testing process, and we can say, no, you don't fit the model of what we offer here, or no, we're not able to serve you, no, we don't have programming and resources to address your need. And that to me is a very different concept. I've just never been able to say, no, we can't, from an educational perspective.
How should parents decide whether their child should be put into private or public school?
I think that's a very personal decision for families. There are tremendous benefits to public school. I am a huge proponent of public schools. I think the diversity and the opportunity to be around people who are like you and people who are different from you offers an excellent way to grow and develop as an individual. I think the exposure to different cultures and people from different socioeconomic backgrounds, that's the real world. Yet there are people who, for different reasons, need a smaller learning environment. It may be the child's academic needs. There may be some social emotional issues. There may be issues with anxiety. There may be very strong religious preferences that people have, and they want that level of religious training embedded into their child's academics. And so, there's not a one size fits all like most things in life. I think you have to examine the needs of your family, the needs of your child, and then make a decision that best supports that as an individual.
So we got another one of our youngsters joining us, and Elijah has a question, and he's going to put it on his phone.
Okay.
I'm just old. I just like writing on paper.
Me too.
Go ahead. Oh, hold on. Okay. Go ahead. Just go ahead and read it. He has a question about student-teacher ratio.
My name is Elijah Barnett, and I have a question. How is a smaller student ratio helpful to private schools?
So, it's interesting you asked that because I just had a conversation with someone in the community about this last week. Let me start by saying this. You can find research to support anything. So whatever it is you believe in and you want, if you research it enough and you get on Google or on any of these journal websites, you can find research to support it. People generally believe that smaller class sizes offer more individualized attention and greater benefit academically to students. There is research out there that says that class size has no impact on academic achievement. So I think it depends on who you talk with. But for many children, as I said earlier, who have unique needs, I think a smaller class size can work better for them. And it does allow teachers to have more direct one-on-one relationships with those students and address what those students' learning needs are. Now, that said, again, there's a lot of research out there that says it's not about the class size, but about the teacher's ability and the instruction and the depth of learning that occurs. You can have classes with only 4 or 5 kids in there, and if that teacher is not strong, then those children still aren't learning. So I think you have to look at all of the factors that go into that. Yet, for some children, a large classroom can be overstimulating for other reasons, and you have to address that. Kind of goes back to your question earlier. How do you make that decision? And that's when you have to look at what those individual needs are. But I don't think we can say because a private school has a smaller student to teacher ratio that the academic performance is necessarily going to be stronger or better. But for some children, that would be the case.
If a parent was interested in exploring the possibility of sending their child to the downtown academy? What's that process?
So they would give us a call at the school, and you can go on to our website, which is downtownacademy.org. Get information there on how to contact us. If they're interested, they come. They can do a tour. They can meet with any of the administrators or directors, ask questions about the school. We can also do that virtually online, and they can get any of their questions answered about Downtown Academy. And then if they're interested, they can sign up for testing. The children go through a pretty basic level assessment of their reading and math skills. It's not a highly rigorous process, but it is one to give us some basic understanding of where that child is. And then after that, they can do the application and financial aid steps to move forward. And there is strong financial aid to support enrollment at Downtown Academy. There are state funds that are available that can be applied. So all of our families that attend do have the opportunity to apply for scholarships to get financial assistance, so that money is not something that prevents them from being able to take advantage of that opportunity.
What has been the easiest part of being director at Downtown Academy?
The small numbers, I think. When you come from, I have the entire school, kindergarten through fifth, was smaller than probably 2 classrooms that I had when I was principal at J.J. Harris. And so being able to kind of stand in the hall and see 75% of my students at one time has been very different for me. And it's allowed me to make some close personal connections to the children as well as to the families. So it would definitely be the size. And sometimes size can be a challenge too, though. Like if you think about things you all do in class and group projects and activities and partnering, it's kind of hard to do a group project when you only have 6 kids in the school, and so, or in the class rather. And so, sometimes that comes with challenges, but that's probably been the thing that's been the biggest difference and easiest for me to manage is just the size.
What is your favorite favorite grade that you teach in and why?
Strangely enough, my favorite area to have worked in was middle school. And most people, you talk to educators, middle school is like their least favorite. The fewest people either they want to do elementary or they don't want to or they want to do high school. They don't want to do middle school, and everybody runs from middle school.
It's the truth, though.
It is. You all are very hormonal and interesting at that 11, 12, 13-year-old age. You're confused. You don't know who you are. You like yourself today. You don't like yourself tomorrow. You like your parents one day. You don't. You like your teachers one day. You don't. It's a really confusing age, but I enjoy that confusion. I like interacting with young people of that age, and just hearing the things and the thoughts and how different you all are in middle school is very fun and entertaining. And so it was probably my most favorite job. And you're more independent than elementary, but you're not completely, you think you're grown, but you're not like at a 16 and 17-year-old age. So it's fun. I like middle school.
It's like that age where you think you're grown, but then your parents have to teach you to where if you're still living in my house, you are not grown.
You're not grown.
You're not
yet.
grown
That's
in any
right.
way.
That's right. Until you pay bills, you're not grown, right? I bet all of you hear that on a regular basis. Everybody's laughing. That's like the common parent line. You don't pay any bills. You're not grown. And so, yeah, but that level of thinking you are, and just kind of trying to find yourself and realize who you are as a person and individual as a middle school age. It's just fun to get to help develop that.
How has education changed throughout your career, and what changes do you hope to see?
Wow. Is this my last question? Because that's a hard one, right? It has changed significantly. And yet, in a lot of ways, it hasn't changed at all. I said to someone recently, I was speaking to a group at the university, And I said it's amazing how we've been able to find cures for some types of cancer, and we're able to have cars that drive themselves and parallel park by themselves, and we have refrigerators that you can look inside without opening a door and see what items you need to purchase, and yet we haven't been able to figure out how to educate all of the children in our country. And that's interesting to me that these really high level technical things we're able to address, but we can't ensure that every child can read by third grade. And that has not changed. And it causes me to question, is our system designed to ensure that all students can succeed? Or is our system designed to ensure that some students fail? And I'm not a conspiracy type person by belief, but I do wonder, why is it that we have been able to solve so many problems in our society, but we can't get all of our children, particularly our children from underserved communities, to be successful academically? Is that purposeful? Is that designed? Is that intended? Um, is it a form of systemic racism? What is that really about? So that's what hasn't changed. What I have seen that has changed is some of the level of parental involvement and community involvement. We have strong community organizations in Athens, Clarke County that are working hard to help our children be successful. But the level of parent partnering is not as strong as it was some years back. And so, how do we change that and make sure that we're working together collaboratively to support at home and to support in the community and to support at school the needs of our kids, so that we can ensure greater success?
Okay, so that's what. Yeah. What final point would you like to make about downtown County? I know you got to go, so we're trying to be respectful of your time. But is there anything about Downtown Academy that you would like that we didn't cover that you want to make sure the audience hears?
I think it is a hidden jewel in our community. It provides an amazing resource for students who are seeking a spiritually based academic learning setting. And I think that there are some misperceptions about the school, because it is primarily a school of Black children. And so there's this perception in some areas of the community that it is just a private school for children who can't necessarily afford another option. And that's not true. It is a school that was built and founded on strong religious principles, but that wanted to provide an option for children in the Athens Clarke community. And so it's not just a Black school, it's not just a poor school. It is a school for any family in the Athens Clarke County community that wants a kingdom-based academic learning environment in a smaller setting for their child. We don't, have priority to certain races or to certain economic classes. We're open and available to any family that's seeking something different based on their personal preferences for their child and what they have decided is needed for their family. And so we're not exclusionary. We're open, we're receptive, we're available, and we welcome, families from all walks of life, from all ethnicities, from all socioeconomic levels. We are available to the Athens Clarke County community based on individual family need and preference.
Last question. Why does education matter to you?
Education matters because it opens doors that would not otherwise be opened. And that is not just a college education. That can be a technical education. It can be a certification in something such as welding, or a certification as a nursing assistant. But education opens doors that otherwise will be closed to you because you lack the preparation and the skills to advance yourself. And so the key to economic freedom, the key to life opportunities lies in the power of an education.
And we're shifting gears as we had to allow Dr. Thomas to go back to her office and meet with parents, but we thank her for her time being here on Education Matters. As you may have been able to tell during the interview, we have a whole crew of new people. The only person who's actually been on the show any great length of time is Kareem Lumpkin. So we're going to practice interviewing for the last few minutes of the show, so these young people can get better and better. Anybody that's ever listened to this show for a long, long time knows that in the beginning, it's pretty rough with new people. But as you continue to listen, they get better and better, and their shows get better and better. It's kind of like an analogy that was just being presented to me a few minutes ago about doing a show on anime. It might be sucky in the beginning, but if you listen long enough, it'll get better and better.
That's the truth.
That's the truth? Okay.
That's
All right,
not
so
true.
you guys
That
need
is
to ask
completely
me
true.
questions these last few minutes about Education Matters, why we do it, what we try to accomplish. And floor is open.
When was Education Matters started?
Education,
Like what year?
Education Matters started in 2010. January the 12th, 2010 was when we aired our first show. So we're getting close to our 15th anniversary.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
No.
Huh?
13.
No, I said we're getting close to our 15th.
Oh.
Next year will be 14, and the year after that it'll be 15. We just observed.
Well, you
our
said
13th.
You started in 2013, right?
No, we started 2010.
Oh, 2010.
So in 2025 we'll be celebrating 15 years.
Yeah. I
Tell
thought you
me
said
the
2013.
story of Education Matters and how it got started.
I was working for the Clark County School District, and my job was to try to help improve the graduation rate. And an idea came to me to use youth as a vehicle to make people understand that being educated did matter, or does matter, whichever way you want to say it. And I thought it was a good idea because if young people weren't buying into the fact that being educated matters, then we would never increase the graduation rate. So I had been experienced as being a radio talk show host, and so we decided we would take that skill and teach it to youth and let them be the driving force in the community that say that being educated matters.
I have a question.
Okay, I hope I have an answer.
Who were the original members that helped you found Education Matters?
Oh, great question. Selena Ritchie was the first person who did Education Matters, and she had a co-host, Creighton Hollis. And it was interesting because before we started the show, we put out flyers in the high schools saying that we were going to start this radio show and we were going to hold auditions. And Selena was the only person from her school, which was Cedar Shows, who showed up. And Creighton was the only person from his school, which was Clark Central, who showed up. So we worked with people that came, and I thought they did a great job.
How did you get like more people on here over time?
As we started doing the show, and the hosts, the youth hosts started inviting their friends either to come on and be a guest, or or even invited them to be on the show. But as more young people heard about the show, more young people became interested in doing the show. And so it's kind of like they say the best form of advertisement is word of mouth. So it really was more word of mouth. And then as parents started to listen and they thought, oh, this would be something good for my child to do, they started reaching out. But really it was youth getting exposed to the program and deciding this was something they thought they could do or would want to do.
How was it like on Education Matters only having like 2 people on here?
Well, it was a lot easier. It's kind of like what Dr. Thomas was saying. When you got a smaller group of people, it's a lot easier to work with them. So it was easy to work with them. We started out with just those 2. I think the most people we've had as a team might have been 7. But yeah, so it was easy to work with 2 people.
Have you ever had a problem with anyone that was working with you in Education Matters?
A problem?
Yeah.
Like, define a problem.
Like, have you ever had to fire them or anyway?
I suspend people. I don't fire anybody. And you get suspended. Because Education Matters, you can't be on this show and fail in a class at any time during the school year. So if at any point during the school year you're failing a class, you're suspended until you get your grade up to passing. And I remember one of the first people I did that to, he just thought it was so unfair. His mother was very grateful that I did that because this was a young man who was a high school senior, and it was April of his senior year, and all of a sudden he was failing, and this dude had already been accepted to college. And so his mother was very grateful that I suspended him until he got his grades back up.
What college did he go to?
Morehouse.
What goals were you trying to achieve with Education Matters?
Great question. Man, y'all are going to be good when it's all over with. The first goal was to, one, showcase to people in this community how bright and intelligent the youth of this community are. I think when the graduation rate was so low, and at that time we started, the graduation rate in Clark County was like around 60%. So people didn't really have a lot of faith or belief in the children and the capabilities in Clark County. So to have youth get on the radio and just show how smart they are, how capable they are, really did a lot to make this community believe in children. So number one was to showcase the youth to the community and get people to believe in our youth and be more supportive of them. After that, it was just helping make sure that students graduated from high school, not only graduated, but graduated prepared to go on to college or join the military or get a job. One of the things I'm most proud about of doing this show, 93% of the students who have been on this show have graduated from high school. 80% of those students have gone on to college. And of that 80%, something like 45% of them majored in journalism. So I'm real pleased with what they've done with their lives. Some of them have gone on to work in the media. There's one who is an airplane mechanic. There's another who's a school counselor. They've all gotten in various fields. There's one of them who's teaching English in China. So they've gone on to do some great things, and I expect that's going to happen with you guys.
How do you feel the show has affected you as a person?
Oh, I've grown a lot. It's kept me young. I don't think you can work with young people being old. So you got to have a young mind, but you do have to be able to help young people understand how old people think. But it's kept me young. It's been one of the most satisfying experiences I've ever had in my life. And I'm indebted to the young people who've been on this show. And we got about a minute left, so somebody's going to have to ask the essential question. Kareem?
Why does education matter?
Education matters to me because it is the key to everything. With a good education, you can do anything in life. But you got to want it. And education doesn't stop when you get out of high school. Education continues. I'm 70 years old and I'm trying to learn something every day.
Wait, I'm sorry. What?
I'm 70 years old
I
in
thought you were in
education.
your 50s.
Oh, I wish I was. No, bro, I'm 70 years old and education still is important to me at this age, and it'll be important to me until they put dirt in my face. Okay, all right, right quick. We're going to interview the young people who are here today, and we're going to start with you, Payton, because, okay, go ahead, Malik. It's all with you. All right, tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Makai from Albany, Georgia.
And I called you Malik. I get you confused with my grandson. All right, Makai. I'm sorry.
That's my brother name.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm Makai from Albany, Georgia. Multi-sport athlete and straight A student.
Straight A student. What's your favorite subject?
Science.
Science. And what do you have a idea what you like to do with that science?
I want to be an electrical engineer.
Electrical engineer. Wow. And what is it about electrical engineering that interests you?
I just like to work with my hands, especially like with electronics, anything that like runs on electricity. I just like to take it apart, put it together.
Okay. So Makai, you said you are a full sports athlete?
No, multi-sport.
Multi-sports. Okay. What are your sports?
Basketball, track. I can play baseball a little bit and a little bit of football.
Okay. And what grade are you in and what school do you attend?
I'm going to the 8th grade. I go to Bernie Harris High School.
Okay. Elijah, tell us a little bit about yourself. What grade are you in and what school do you go to?
I'm in 6th grade.
6th grade. And
Well,
go ahead.
Well, I'm going to 6th grade.
Okay. And which school?
Hillsman.
Hillsman Middle School. And what are your interests?
Normally, I want to grow up to be a pediatrician.
Really?
Mhm.
Okay. Why a pediatrician?
Because like working with young people.
Mm-hmm. And so, like Makai, you like science?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. What is it about science that interests you?
Mostly chemicals. You get to like play and mess around with them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you like chemistry?
Yes.
All right. Outstanding. Outstanding. What do you do for fun?
Sometimes I just read the dictionary.
Are you serious?
Serious.
Malcolm X in the house. Because that's what Malcolm X did when he was in prison. He read the dictionary.
Really?
Yeah. And it helped improve his vocabulary, obviously. But yeah. Okay.
Have you read like the whole dictionary?
No, I haven't.
Like how? What page are you on?
1% of it.
Wow.
So you're on page 1?
No. Okay. Dictionary is a big thing. Before you go, I got something for you. All right, Aiden, tell us a little bit about yourself. What grade are you in? What school are you going to?
I'm in 5th grade, about to go to 6th, going to BHL, Bunny Harris Science.
Okay. And what interests you? Earlier, I know one thing that interests you is you like soccer, but you also like to tell jokes, and you like anime.
I like soccer, basketball, and anime.
Okay. And what is it about anime? Let's what is it about anime that is so cool?
Okay, I'm about to take up this whole interview.
Oh, well, don't take it all, but go ahead.
So what interests me is about anime. My brother's the one that got me into it by watching.
Well, wait a minute. Let's start off. What is anime for people who don't know?
Anime is a Japanese cartoon. It's not exactly it's not exactly the same as U.S. cartoons because it's in anime Japanese cartoons like Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, One Piece. They are all not exact. They're cartoon filmed, but they're like, how do I explain? They're cartoon filmed, but they're more for like more matured people, like over 13. Even though I watch it when I'm only 11.
Okay.
So it interests me in how, like, for one, the filming, like the action that it shows, and just like from all the storyline, the plot, the twists and turns, all of it.
So it's got Popeye and Bugs Bunny beat. No.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, I mean, cause
Actually, I take that back because they're OGs. You can't stop them.
yeah, I mean, I watch Popeye and Bugs Bunny on Saturday mornings. I'll admit it. I'm not into anime just yet. Okay, all right, and run out of time. But Payton, and Payton is a publisher.
Yes, so my name is Payton, and I publish a newsletter each week and I've interviewed over 200 people.
Wow, what got you into that?
Well, when I was 11, I knew I wanted to start a business of some kind, so I went through a lot of different ideas, and I got to the idea of just in my neighborhood, a newsletter for that, just to connect the people in the neighborhood, plan events and get them to know each other, but it's really grown all around and I've learned a lot.
Okay, now what's the name of your newsletter and how can people subscribe to it?
Yes, so it's called the Loch Lomond Gazette, and I have a website. It's LOCHLOMOND Gazette.com.
All right, thank you. Thank you all for being with us. Look forward to working with you all on the Education Matters team as we go forward. Have a great weekend, everybody.